I wanted to do something a little different today. I wanted to check in with all the teams very quickly. So just like kind of like those round robins where we just go around and I'm just gonna ask for each team to kind of say hi, hello, or just drop in the chat. Totally cool, whichever you want to do. But I'll share my screen for you guys as reference. I'm sure you guys have already found this sheet, but we can just start with team one. Is team one here? And feel free to unmute or just drop in the chat. I just want to check how many teams have came.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good to hear. I think I also saw Emmanuel here as well. Or I saw him in the chat. So good to hear. Cool. Team two. Anyone?
Hi, I'm here from team two.
Cool. Good to hear. Team three.
Yep, we're here.
Awesome. Team four.
Hello.
Hello. Team five.
Hi, we're here.
Hello. Team six.
Hey,
Hello, team 6.
Hello. Good morning. Team seven. Ooh, team seven. For now, I'll say they're not here.
Oh, Ami said in the chat that she's here.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry. Okay, cool. Team eight.
Team 8 is here.
Awesome. Team nine.
Team 9
Team 9 is here.
Great. Team 10.
Here.
Team 10 is here.
Cool. 11.
I'm here. Yeah, we're here.
Okay, cool. 12.
We're here.
Great. 13.
Hey, we're here.
Great. 14.
14. Is
that 14? I don't know if someone's mic was unmuted or it was 14.
I don't see anyone from 14. Anyone from 14 here?
Okay. For now, I'll say no. Team 15.
We're here.
16.
I'm here.
Oh, massive echo. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting us know. Team 17.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, try to fix that. Okay, yeah, I guess for now it's fine. Team, where do we go off? Sorry, I think we're on 17, right? 17 is here.
Yeah, 17 is here. Yeah.
Here.
Okay, I figured it out. Someone was unmuted. Thanks. 19.
Hi, Khushbu from 19 team.
Thanks. 20.
Hi, we're here.
So 21.
We're here.
22.
Yep, we're here.
Awesome.
Yep.
23.
We're Hi, we're here.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we're 22 out of 23, which is pretty good. So we for sure will follow up with Team 14. I think they did reach out to me and they said they're all full-time working people, so they would likely like the event recorded, but no worries. So good to hear from everyone. I guess my next question would just be in the chat, if you guys could drop in, have you guys reached out to your mentor? And have you guys been able to communicate / do something with your mentor? Good. I'm seeing yeses. So glad to see everyone's able to reach out and sync up with them. Awesome. Cool. If you guys have any issues, I think I posted a message and Grace will continue to post on Slack. We do have office hours all of today, as well as all of tomorrow, as well as early Sunday morning. So somebody from the PB leadership team will be active to answer your questions. So feel free to just drop it there and we'll be happy to answer your questions. I guess whenever we can, but there should be someone active at all times, at least between the time frame we gave you. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind if you guys have any questions at any time or whatsoever. But yeah, I guess we can hop into it. I think all the teams are here. So we can just go into just the prompt as well as what is today's project jam. So I'll share my Notion. This is the same Notion that everyone has access to at the moment. This is the one-pager project jam, that one-pager for Protothon that we sent out probably like 2 weeks ago or earlier this week. Just a reminder to thank our sponsors, Exponent, Hackney PM, Empower, and Consulting. they were able to really help get together your guys' prizes for 1, 2, 3. So that's super helpful from their end. We'll go into the schedule afterwards, and also you can access the name of speakers and whatever. Hopefully everyone was able to attend all the workshops. If you guys were, drop in the chat. I think they were super helpful for myself, like even for someone not even participating technically. I think they were really helpful and really informative. So that was our intention for holding those workshops. We wanted you guys to get a better understanding of the product development cycle and really get hands-on experience as you go into today's workshops, or I guess today's Protothon. So yeah, good to hear. They're really informative. Hopefully they're super helpful for you guys. The speakers had a great time talking. So today's November 13th through today, all the way through Sunday, 12 p.m. PST. You guys will be working on your teams to work on your deliverables. You guys can scroll through this. I'm not going to really go over it because you guys have full access, but I do want to talk a little bit about the prompt. So I guess this is one question that I've gotten for a lot of people. So I will pull that up very quickly. And in the meantime, if you guys have any Q&A or any questions, please let me know.
Who's excited for the prompt? Drop, a reaction or yes, I love it. Yisha and Kumar, Manasi, Brendan, Ben. Look at all those reacts. Here we go.
Here we go. So yeah, just a precursor, I'll share this with you guys. This is also another Notion page, so we'll just make it public on the Notion wiki. But yeah, I'll just go through the prompt and let me know if you guys have any questions. So as you guys know, the theme is the new normal. So COVID-19 recent events in 2020 have brought drastic changes in the way we live and the way we kind of like do anything. So these changes have introduced new challenges and opportunities that we need to address as product people. So how can we people adapt? How can we help people adapt to the new normal? And then on top of that, how can we leverage technology, innovation to shape the new normal? So the prompt is essentially conceptualize a product or service that will address any of the following trends. And you can read those trends if you guys want, but I'll go through them very quickly. Health, vulnerable populations, businesses, community, education, or entertainment. And keep in mind, these are just very high level, I guess, areas or trends that we found to be really helpful in terms of addressing this new normal need. But if you guys do see a new trend or like a new, I guess you could say topic or area, that's totally cool to pursue if you guys do want to. I would add that the judges are aware of these, I guess this prompt in specific. So if you do try to go outside of this prompt, or I guess like try to create a new trend, just be sure to address that in your case study or PowerPoint or slide deck or whatever. So the other thing I wanted to go through was the deliverable. I'm sure people have questions for that, but I'll stop here. I also dropped the link of this in the chat as well as make this public under wiki. And in the meantime, let me go to see if you guys have questions. No questions? Okay. I mean, hopefully everyone understood. Can it be?
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So can we take like a combination of two or an entirely different field?
Yes, good question. So I think it was also dropped in the chat. Yes, combos are okay. For everyone's knowledge, this is a product that's wiki. I just included it here. Where did it go? Here. So yeah, a combo is totally cool. Obviously, like, I guess it's dependent on whatever space you're working on and whatever kind of particular area that you want to work for. So like I can imagine education and community could probably, or I guess community and vulnerable populations could easily become combined into one product or could easily overlap. So yeah, combinations are totally cool if you guys do feel that your product would combo over like 1 or 2 or 3 of these. But just keep in mind, again, kind of what we talked about in the first workshop, identify your user persona or like at least your user segment really like, I guess like definitely like, I guess very detailed and in like a very precise manner. And doing so will help you kind of figure out which trend or which area you want to focus on. Yes, does that help answer that question?
Yeah, it does.
Great, cool. I'll leave a little bit, maybe like two-ish more, I guess any more questions? If not, or as you guys think, I guess. Yes, go ahead.
One more thing, what exactly are we, do you mean by trends here?
I guess you can treat trends as like, I guess, categories or like market spaces, I guess. Those are just like, these are 6 areas that we could see or we want to see that would really help people adapt to the new normal. You could probably kind of bucket, I guess, different things in your life into those 6 categories. And so given that we're focusing on how can we help people, how can we shape the new normal, we just want to highlight these 3. I guess you can treat them as market spaces to kind of like create a product for and really address these innovations. Does that help your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Anyone else have any other questions? Again, this is public. This is not the only time you guys will be able to see this. I just added it to the wiki. So if you guys just go here, it's right here. So you should have access to it.
And Milop, I just got a private message asking, will like the rubric metrics that are being used to judge the teams be released, or are we keeping those internal?
Yes, good question. So we thought the rubric itself, like the exact thing judges will be using to grade, won't be public because that would, I guess, we don't want the same, I guess we don't want the same information to be out because then it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily judging off of like a separate criteria, but we did take the rubric and we created these points right here. So I can pretty confidently say if you guys are able to address all of these points, you're on good track. Like you're like pretty up to par to what the judges expect. And then obviously like how detailed or how kind of like where you take each of these points and kind of like refine them, that's totally up to you and then the freedom of your team. Obviously, like I guess on top of that would be how, I guess if you do refine one of them or if you slightly kind of like focus, let's say you're specifically focusing a lot on prototyping, just keep in mind that the other points do exist. So I guess from my perspective, I would say try to hit all of these points equally. But if you want to focus like on 1 or 2 of them, like in depth, feel free. But for, I guess, a product to properly be developed, our judges helped, I guess, from past judges and kind of our past feedback, these are the points we came up with, which leads us to a pretty good segue into our deliverable. So I guess I'll just cover that now. And if you guys have a question, feel free to drop in the chat or interrupt me. It's no worries at all. So yeah, again, this deliverable is in the 1-pager. Our deliverable for this kind of protothon will be every team will compile a case study of 4 pages maximum, not including appendix or citations or resources, as well as a pitch deck of 15 slides maximum for their product. So I will explain where these are used right as soon as I finish kind of what we're expecting. I guess like number 3 says, teams have creative license regarding what to include in their final case study and pitch deck, but judges will expect to see the following from both the case study and pitch deck. And also I'll like very quickly go over them. What's the problem you're trying to solve? What is gained by solving this problem? Who are your possible user groups, and how did you target the particular group within these users? Why or why not? Why or why not? And then how did you prioritize which users to target? Followed by what are users' pain points, problems? What data did you gather backing up your assumptions? What are possible ways to solve product ideas for the problem? Trade-offs and prioritization metrics that you guys went through. What is your MVP? And then this can obviously be supplemented through a prototype or Figma, Adobe XD, whatever it may be. And then how would you measure the success of your product? So just as a high level, I know Darsh helped a lot with this, so I will let him chime in as soon as, actually I'll let him chime in right now. Yeah, so Darsh, are you there?
Yep, just one minor thing, as you can read on point number 2, it is 4 pages maximum, not including appendix or citations. So what that basically means is if you have done some extensive research or maybe you have some visualization, survey data, this or that, you can include that in an appendix, and that appendix won't be counted towards the 4-page limit. So like you have 4 page of content, then you can have appendix, and there all your citations, research, whatever factual data that you're referring in your case studies, you can include there.
Yes, good. Thanks, Darsh, for clearing that up. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a good question. So does everyone know what a case study is? If you guys don't, like we can try to come up with a couple examples for you guys, but ideally, it's just kind of like similar to a UX case study, but obviously it's a product spin to it. So you're adding information such as how did you gather user research? What is user research? What is the data that you gathered? This is, I guess, these points were to help you kind of understand what the case study should include as well. So hopefully that helps kind of answer your question. But I wanted to add, judging will take place twice. So everyone will submit their deliverable at 12. I guess this would be a good time to share the schedule. And I can, hopefully this kind of helps everyone understand how the grading is going to happen. Cool. So everyone will work, obviously, like we're here right now. So everyone will finish our case, we'll finish our keynote. And then the next 2 days will pretty much be specifically working. We won't have any major events or anything like that you guys have to attend. And then our deliverables we do at 12 o'clock on the dev post. So what we'll do is kind of grading will go down in two kind of phases, you could say. So we have round 1 judges. So they will take a combination of both your case study as well as your slide deck. And they'll kind of look it over, read through it, give feedback, and then grade it pretty much on a numerical or like a numerical scale. And then from there, we'll have our top 5 teams. And then we'll notify those top 5 teams at around 1:15 to 1:30. And given that your slide deck is already completed, pretty much you'll have around 30-ish minutes to just get together with your team, sync up who's in what slide, and just gather, maybe practice a couple of times. And then demo day will occur at 2 o'clock with the top 5 teams. So pretty much we'll start with 23 teams here. Everyone will get graded. We'll narrow it down to 5 teams, and then the 5 teams will pitch. And then the final, top 1, 2, 3 will be notified here. So does that make sense to everyone? Yes. So let me just, if you guys are curious about what a case study should look like, I can share my screen and I can show you guys. So in our Product Buds wiki, there is something called knowledge repo, this one. And then you can search up under case studies, articles. Really, you can explore this section, but there are a couple of examples of what case studies should look like. I believe it's here. Yes, so there are links to example case studies, what case studies should look like, what other people have done. Definitely, this isn't like, we won't have like one of these and then like side by side comparing your case study, but this is just for you to get a better understanding of what a case study could look like, or like potentially kind of could be modeled after. So again, this is on the wiki for Product Buds, so you guys should be able to access that. If you guys are curious, it's under PM resources, under knowledge repo.
Hey, Mila.
Yes.
I just got a question, and the question was, can the case study be a Notion document?
I think, well, so we want it to be, like, I guess, so you have to submit it on DevPost. I think any form on DevPost is allowed. So it could be a Google Drive link. It could be a Notion link. It could be PDF, which is preferred because that way we can just send it over to like judges and everything like very quickly. So I would try, yeah, please, if you guys can. There's technically no way we can force PDF, but if you guys could send it in PDF, that would be very helpful. And yeah, you can export Notion to PDF. You can export Google Docs to PDF. You can export pretty much a lot of stuff to PDF. So yeah, try to please add PDF when you guys are submitting. And just a reminder, just to clarify, the deliverable includes case study plus pitch deck. We included the plus pitch deck section, even if you won't make it a demo day, just to help you guys get a better practice of consolidating a ton of information into 5 slides. And like Timmy talked about yesterday, not overwhelming it with words, just like very like concisely adding pictures or whatever it may be, and then working on your presentation skills. So yes, that's a good question.
And while the judges are looking at every single team's final product, they will be looking at both your case study and your pitch deck, but also each judge will only have around like 20 minutes or so to look at every single team's final product to judge. So keep that in mind, making sure that you're delivering your message about your product in a clear and concise way, so that it's easy for them to look at and be able to give feedback on your final product.
Yes, totally agree. Does anyone else have any questions as we wait for Hadar to come in? and give us our keynote. We have around 5 minutes. Yes, 20 minutes. So the thing is, since it's all happening at one time or like one day, each judge kind of can only judge around 2 to 3 projects. And then each project will take around 20, 25 minutes to grade. And it's only an hour. So yeah, to answer your question, both case study and pitch deck will be judged in around 20 to 25 minutes. So just keep that in mind when keeping things concise. We're getting very to the point. And all of our judges are product people, like they're either already industry like APMs or they're like more senior people. So like senior PMs and PMs. So they're all familiar with like the case study and like this type of deliverable. So don't be kind of like shocked, or I guess don't try to like kind of make it so like you're introducing a completely new concept to them. They know what case studies are, they know what like pitch decks are, but just keep that in mind. Keep things very concise. As PMs themselves, they know like when people are rambling on versus like they're getting like straight to the point, showing the data and things like that. Which format would you prefer, PDF or PPT? PDF, in my opinion, I mean, I think PDF is also, again, a very good alternative. I know a lot of people do Google Drive, but for the sake of pitch decks, again, for the, just because we want to keep things consistent, if you guys could submit both in PDF, that'd be super helpful. Yeah, Google Slides is able to export in PDF. I don't know what else people use PPTs for. I think besides like Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides, I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, like you can create slides in Microsoft, PowerPoint, Google Slides, even Canva,
and also Keynote on Mac. You can use Keynote.
Yeah. But whatever you and your team like agree on is like the best tool to use.
I got a good question. Question was, how would you say we need to use our mentors as a resource for the project? We knew this question would come up, so we added we have a specific section here somewhere. Here, so this is what we told mentors where they can help out with. So collaborative brainstorm, like on a product idea, product features ideas, assist the team in product validation, product research, provide feedback to the team whenever the deliverable is created, answer obviously like any question that the team may have based on whatever expertise they're coming from. But this is just a list. I would say definitely talk to your mentor. We tried to pair everyone up to the best of our ability based on the expertise you guys are looking for. But 100% talk to your mentor, be open with them, and just see where they can help out. And like I said, the availability for each mentor is already listed on that Project Jam form. So just check out that availability. Obviously, be respectful of mentors' time. They have a bunch of other stuff to do on like weekends and stuff, but they did specifically allocate like those 2-hour slots for like those 1.5-hour slots for Project Jam. So from a team's perspective, I would kind of meet with my team and then definitely like, I guess you can treat those as milestones or like treat those as like check-in points and try to like kind of have a semi-deliverable before going into that meeting, or like a set of questions before going into that call. So the mentor can help you best or like most efficiently. Can you share the link to this page? Yes. So the Notion I'm talking about is tinyurl.com/pjpj essentials. Oh, I think he. And then the other one is tinyurl.com/fall2020 pdpj. I think I can double check that. But yeah, so I think Hadar is here. So that's it from Project Jam perspective. Does anyone else have any last minute questions for me, or I guess for Project Jam?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Is tomorrow's roundtable compulsory to attend?
Tomorrow's, what was that?
Roundtable?
No, sorry, just to clarify, roundtables are optional, but I do highly suggest you guys come through. They're gonna be pretty fun, and it's just very chill to help you guys de-stress from working all day. So I think today's roundtable is just a like very brief, very informal hangout session, and tomorrow's roundtable is just Among Us. So just come through, I guess, if you guys are free. It'll be pretty fun. Meet other people in the cohort, and then it should be wrong. Yeah, I think I sent the wrong link, so I'll send you guys again, and we'll cover it at the end. But That's it for me. So I'll hand it off to Grace to intro Hadar, and then just for last minute reminder, we do have office hours. We post on Slack. So if you have any other questions, just thread them there, and then whoever's active at the time will be sure to answer your questions. But yeah, that's it for me. Good luck, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Milap, for all the great information about Project Jam. So as you all know by now, the theme for this year's Project Jam is the new normal, right? And that's because all of our lives have been completely changed by everything that's happened in 2020. A lot has happened, and you all are going to be building products that are going to potentially change lives as we know it because of, you know, all the different problems that we've been exposed to in 2020. And so, you know, before I go into introducing our awesome keynote speaker, Hadar, let me just say that, you know, technology has the potential to generate enormous impact in our everyday lives, from social media's effect on civic engagement to the gig economy's effect on drivers' livelihoods. The extent to which this impact is good for society depends largely on the decisions that you all make as builders of our future. So that's exactly what Hadar is going to be speaking to us about today. So he is currently an integrity product manager at Facebook, and he has previously worked as a product manager at other companies such as Lyft and Postmates. He has so much product experience, and he is going to be speaking to us about technology ethics. So without further ado, Hadar, can you please, speak to our community here? And can everyone please give a clap reaction for Hadar as he's coming on to speak to us?
Thank you. Thanks for the intro. Clap intros are very cute. The reactions, I like that. Doing the best we can to Zoom. Cool. Hey, everyone. It's really exciting to see so many people here. A ton prepared, Slido, and I generally find that conversation gets the most interesting when it's bi-directional, with folks also chiming in with what they want to hear about, and I want to make sure that you know that I'm available for that. But I'll start off with some kind of some general thoughts. So being here at this event reminds me a lot, actually, of when I was in college. I was really involved in the hackathon scene, and one of the first things that I did as I was getting involved in the tech scene was plan hackathons. When I was at UCLA, I planned LA Hacks, which was it got to like a pretty large size. We had like I think around like 2,000 or so people attending our biggest event before I left. And at the time, it was really fun to be just exposed to a bunch of different ideas, a bunch of different people with various technical skills and dreams of, having a huge impact on the world. And at the time, the things that I was the most excited about doing was like being a startup founder and, being the next like Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, or like working at like a prolific company and like rising up the ranks and having like a bunch of impact in at that company. That was the sort of stuff that I was the most engaged with. And for the first job that I took out of college, I joined a startup that I had been interning at before, where the team was really fun and the people were just like really enjoyable to be a part of, and I was able to ship like user-facing consumer stuff like quickly, and that all felt like it was the right thing to do. It felt like a fun or like a fulfilling way to spend my professional time. I very quickly realized after, well, maybe not quick, but after a couple of years doing that after college, I realized that that wasn't actually that fulfilling, and that it wasn't really having an impact on the world that I cared about it to have. And when I started to zoom out and look around, like how other people are making their career decisions as well, I feel like there's a lot of things that motivate us in how we make our decisions in our career that maybe we shouldn't give a ton of credence to. Things like working on like the sexiest or most interesting product, like, at Facebook, shipping Instagram Reels or something like that, right? Or like having a role where you have a lot of power, like you control an entire user experience, or like, aiming to manage a bunch of people or whatever. I think that's not the right way to think about your career, albeit a common one for at least a lot of people, for very good reasons. Like I think a lot of people think that that's like how you achieve good impact in the world, is by like positioning yourself in society the right way. I guess I'm here to tell you that there's plenty more ways to think about your career than that. I think there's a lot of passion that we all have when we're in college and beyond that we engage in outside of like the tech industry. Everyone here has probably been interested in something between like environmentalism or like economic equality, or there's plenty of other causes in the world, education or whatever else, right? These are things that I at least thought a lot about when I was like getting started in college, and I found that as I got more embedded in the tech scene, my priorities started to shift a bit, where I wasn't spending as much time thinking about those impacts on the world as the primary orientation for how I made decisions. And it turned more and more into like a hobby on the side. I think that the more that we can keep those things foregrounded throughout our career, and the more that we can think proactively about the impact that we're having from the lens of economic equality, education, environmentalism, whatever cause speaks to you the most, the more genuinely societally beneficial impact you could have on the world around you. And this can come in a variety of ways. This could come in picking a company or a startup to join, or one to start yourself, that has that as the primary guiding principle or the guiding lens. Which company or which role would help me to maximize the specific thing that I care about from other people's perspectives, or even inversely, thinking about the potential negative consequences of some of the products that you're building. As a couple examples from my own personal career, people at both like ride sharing and like delivery companies and people at Facebook are all very like genuine, kind, altruistic people in terms of how they want to impact the world. But when you get too deep into the weeds of making a really effective ride sharing service, or really effective like engaging social media platform, as I'm sure everyone here is aware from reading the news, these sort of things have negative externalities. It can hurt certain people completely unintentionally, but due to not thinking too much upfront about the impact that you could have on other people in those ways. So I think as you all go out and continue your careers and think about companies to join and so forth, I would just urge you to think about that more upfront. Think about both the positive impact that you would want to try to have, as well as the things that you'd want to avoid perpetuating through your work. That's all for now, but happy to answer questions. There's, I think, still plenty of time for that.
I have a quick question. Can I? So hey, Hadar.
Hey.
So I see. I mean, not that I'm trying to stalk you or anything, but I saw that you work at Facebook currently, and I just wanted to know that how do you implement the day-to-day strategies as a product manager, and like what do you take as the initial steps, if you could a little bit.
Not sure what you mean by implementing database strategies.
Like in terms of when you approach a problem like we are for the project, in terms of the new normal, how do you start? Like, do you start with like a human-centered approach, or like what? Do you know what I mean? Or is it a little bit?
For sure. I think that makes sense. Let me give you an answer. Let me know if there's more that you want. I generally think, so in the abstract, I think of like orienting a plan or a strategy based on collecting as many inputs as you can to inform a decision upfront, and then like letting that kind of combine and turn into different ideas that you can then prioritize. The former is basically letting different data points come in, talking to the end user who you're trying to build for, doing qualitative research and understanding from them what their what their needs are. Plenty of other things that you could do too, depending on the context. Like if you're in a company talking to partner teams, or if you're doing a startup talking to other companies in the space in general, or looking up like what the market in general is headed towards. These are all different inputs. Once you have all of that, then you can collate it and think about what different types of ideas can help you to accomplish the goal that you're moving towards. And then finally, just having some sort of a guiding principle around like what the main impact you're trying to have is, would then help you to prioritize between those things. Where, for example, there's like a specific metric or a specific, even like qualitative outcome that you're hoping to push towards. You can look at a list of 20 ideas and pick just a couple of them that are the most well suited for that prioritization framework that you have.
Okay, Thank you. I know I started at like an awkward point.
Hey Hadar, this is Akshaya. My question was a little bit more towards just ethics in the realm of AI and machine learning and how that's like becoming really, really prominent. How would you, maybe as in your role or as a product manager, maybe work with your team to kind of communicate that whatever technology it is that you are shipping to, like communicate to your users that whatever technology it is that you're shipping is beneficial to them? I know it has the cool words AI, ML wrapped around it, but how do you communicate to them that, hey, look, it's not actually stealing your data and doing something bad with it?
Sure. Yeah, I think like AI and ML is like one of those terms that's like so broad that it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Just, one of the main things that makes something like buzzy as well, right, is because it can mean something meaningful to any individual person and not mean the same thing across the board. My quick thoughts there are the ML, AI, other buzzwords like blockchain or whatever, right? These are all things that are means to an end. They're all tools to create a experience for human beings and to make their lives better, right? I wouldn't think of them as like something to do just for the sake of it, right? And this actually goes back to my earlier point around like, I think it's easy to go into steps of your career where you're optimizing for like having fun or working with like interesting technologies. And I think a lot of people, for example, like end up working on like ML AI stuff because it seems like it's a fun thing to work on. I would urge folks to think about if that's the right solution to the problem that you ultimately care to solve. So for example, I work at Facebook right now on like content moderation and like integrity issues. And there's some cases where machine learning is like helpful to solve a problem. There's other cases where it's not. And there's other cases where if you were to use machine learning to try to prevent something from happening on the platform, it'd be really hard to explain why we did it from the human perspective. You can't just tell someone like, hey, this like magic box predicted that you have a 90% likelihood of doing something bad. So like we're kicking you off the platform. Yeah, there should be like a specific set of like, hey, here's a rule that you violated or whatever, right? We had similar things at Lyft where you could use machine learning to solve certain problems, but it'd be really hard to understand and like feel good about as a user. So bringing this all back to like, doing good product management work, you should understand what your user needs and what would entail a good experience for them. And machine learning will sometimes help to make that experience as good as possible, but it sometimes might be bad. And it's important to think about what is the right thing to do in a given context.
So user first kind of approach.
Yeah. User first and explainability, I think, is an important point.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Hadar. Thank you so much for being here. So I have a question. When you work at such a large company like Facebook and they already have a lot of money and maybe they want to continue making lots of money, how do you separate your personal goals from the business goals? And do you even bother separating that? So for example, like let's say there's a feature that Facebook is implementing that's going to make them a lot of money, but may not, maybe it will harm the well-being of the users or whatever. Do you get a say in the decisions that they make at Facebook? And where do you draw the line between like making a profit and doing what's best for society?
Yeah, totally. This is a really good question. I think the answer really boils down to it depends on the company. I think it's important to have a perspective for yourself as to what types of solutions in the world would further problems that you care about in meaningful ways. For example, in the realm of like economic equality, you might think that developing a like new class of worker through like ride sharing and deliveries could help to create more work opportunities and be like an economically empowering force. You could also believe, alternatively, that creates like a opportunity to exploit labor and reduce wages below minimum wage, which would be, let's say, in some people's eyes, a bad thing to do. There's no like right or wrong answer objectively. It depends on like your own worldview, your own philosophy, and how you make different trade-offs for yourself. And these are things that we all learn in college, right? Taking like different courses on like ethics and economics and whatnot, right? In fact, those like lessons like are increasingly important as you get deeper in your career. And have more influence on the strategy of these companies. I'd say like the important thing to do is to think about, for any given company or team that you're trying to join, what is the likely outcome of their work realistically when it like hits market and based on the incentive structures that exist in like the world that we live in, and are you okay with that on the whole? For example, with Facebook, I genuinely believe that the existence of social media has, while it has plenty of dark sides to it, is a powerful positive force in the world. Because otherwise we'd be reliant on like a centralized set of gatekeeping entities that control information flow and affected like what we believe as a world, right? And it's really great to be able to put people on blast on Twitter if they're treating people poorly, which we've seen through like Me Too and BLM and like other movements across the world, right? These are things that you wouldn't really have been able to get without Facebook and Twitter, let's say. That said, I wouldn't personally have joined Facebook if I were not able to join the integrity org within Facebook that focuses on harm mitigation, on preventing the bad sides of that platform from being exploited by people, right? So for me, I think the like overall mission of the company is good with some dark sides that I'm personally focused on mitigating. So for me, that felt like a really great fit. For other people, that might not work out because maybe their calculus works out completely differently and they don't think that social media is a net positive, at all, right? It really depends on what your personal preferences are and what you perceive to be the direction of the company. The last thing I'll add, I think one of your questions is around being able to influence within the company. I think any good company that you could join has a culture of empowering folks bottoms up to contribute to the strategy and help influence the direction of where things are going. But ultimately, in any company, you can't change that too radically, right? Like if you join Facebook and you're like, hey, we should become a subscription-based social media platform that doesn't have advertising anymore. Good luck with that, right? Like you should probably understand that that's like a very hard to change, if ever changeable facet of that specific company. And the CEO is not likely to, entertain like a radically different way of structuring the company. While alternatively, there might be other companies that you can join that are furthering your vision of the world in a closer way.
Thank you so much for your answer.
So I have a question.
Please.
Yeah. So the other time talking about using AI to flag posts. Recently there was an issue in Nigeria with the government, and Facebook kept like flagging down the posts of the masses. People were like really, really, really angry. But looking at it, I thought as much that maybe it was AI doing that. So like in that kind of situation, like how do you guys actually know like what is actually happening? Because at that point, it felt like Facebook was killing the voice of the people. At that point, that was what it felt like. So in that kind of scenario, like what does Facebook do to make sure that things like that don't happen? Because the reason why we have social media is to empower people, to give people voice, to like let the whole world know what's happening in real time. So yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I can't speak to the specific decisions that the company made, in a specific context, but I can speak in generalizations here. And I know that this has a really painful negative side effect of the work that the company does, and that's been experienced not only there but also in other parts of the world in different points in time, which is really bad. Like that's not something that anyone really wants, right? I think that the approach that one must take, specifically if we're talking about like content moderation on a platform as big as Facebook, is there's a fundamental trade-off between two different machine learning concepts, actually, precision versus recall. For those who...
Wait, what did you say? Precision versus what?
Precision versus recall. Which, to explain, so you can think of recall as like getting rid of as much of the like actually bad stuff as possible, and precision as preventing yourself from accidentally getting rid of stuff that you thought was bad, but was not actually bad. because the machine learning model makes guesses as to if something is good or bad, and it won't get that correct every single time, right? And it depends on the context. You might want to trade off towards one or the other. For example, like child exploitation is a terrible, terrible thing that we should have zero tolerance for. And we probably want to optimize for recall. And it's okay if we get some false positives that weren't actually, like that type of thing. But we should try to get as much of that off the platform as possible. No exceptions, right? Alternatively, if we're talking about like misinformation, which it's hard to discern between truth, like, objectively, right? If we're talking about like spam, for example, these are things where precision is probably more important, because it's okay if there's like a couple extra pieces of people thinking that something is true or is not, and it's like unclear. In fact, I think that's what like more speech is helpful for, because we can all debate what's real and what's not together. And that's where I think you want to avoid, to your point, preventing people from having a voice by like over optimizing to deleting what they say. This is a really hard problem to solve. It's like, there's like 1,000-person team at Facebook working on this sort of stuff, and being deep in the weeds myself, I know it's really hard to get those percentages right. It's definitely a thing that's important for the company to get better at.
Thank you so much for your response.
Sure.
I have one question. So how important are ethics while taking important business decisions that may affect the business or the values of the business in the future?
Yeah, we should tie this back to, I think it was Christina's question from a couple ago. This ultimately is going to end up boiling down to the like person or people who are the most like in charge of the company ultimately. If you think about like how any company functions, whether it's like a one-person startup or a 100,000-person organization, it's really just a series of trade-offs. You're evaluating like one direction you can go versus another. You're thinking about the pros and cons of it, and you make a decision and you execute towards that path, right? In general, when there are conflict or disagreements about how to resolve a trade-off, you typically are going to need to have somebody weigh in, maybe somebody who is like a tie-breaking leader for the org as a whole. So you can imagine like if you're working on something and you want to push it towards some vision you have for social impact, but it would cost the company 1% less profit than it would have otherwise made, or something like that, right? It's a really hard trade-off to make. That's hard to do apples to apples, right? Like how do you trade off, I don't know, like how do you trade off like some qualitative idea for social impact that like isn't like objectively like the most important thing necessarily, but you feel is important, versus like something that the business is more or less required to do, like making more money, right? The best companies, at least the ones that I personally enjoy working at the most, are ones where the tolerance for making a trade-off decision towards social impact is weighed more strongly. Like at Facebook, we've like foregone plenty of business opportunities to improve the like state of integrity on the platform. Or like Airbnb is a great example that invests a lot into like qualitatively, societally beneficial work at the expense of putting that time and effort and money into increasing like the margins on every booking that they facilitate, for example. Whenever you want to push one of these trade-offs, you ultimately are going to need to end up at like the CEO probably as like the final tiebreaker in case like people are disagreeing across the board. So it really ends up being the CEO's vision for the company with respect to how to make these sort of trade-offs that percolates across the entire organization. So if that's something that you care about, that's certainly something that I care about. I think it's important to find an organization where the like leadership at the very top is aligned with making trade-offs in that direction.
Hey, Hadar. Thank you for coming, first of all. I know you've talked a lot about this kind of idea with content moderation and like misinformation, but like recently we were talking in class about like the First Amendment. And so with that, there's this idea that in a market of ideas and like thoughts, they're like the best one will always like come to the forefront or like win, right? But with social media, I feel like since it gives everybody a voice, do you think it kind of goes to the extent of infringing on, I don't know, like more reputable sources? Because like what we're seeing now is like with coronavirus and I guess like the election, there's like a lot of polarization that we're seeing. And so do you think that Facebook or like any other social media company has a obligation to kind of push some users to the forefront depending on like their platform? Like for instance, if it's the New York Times versus someone that has like 100 followers, do you think that Facebook has, social media has an obligation to push those voices forward and kind of eliminate that like polarization that we're seeing today?
Yeah, it's a really hard question to answer fully. I agree with you that these are real problems. And it's not clear to me that, one solution versus another is like objectively the right one. I can tell you that like there's some things that like we're doing at Facebook, for example, and this is just me speaking as like a fellow user of the product, not as like a representative of the company necessarily, or at all actually. There are cases where we will, in the case of like the election, for example, have like a information center showing like reputable sources calling like which candidate is winning which state, or for COVID, having like an information center again that shows like the case count and like the CDC's guidelines on like taking care of yourself, let's say. Right. So I think that there are cases where like doing that is helpful. There are also cases where going too far in that direction could be harmful, where if users have zero access to like the kind of broader conversation that everyone is getting to participate in, there are like grassroots journalism really that people could also benefit from seeing that would be harder to find if you pivot too hard towards like a small set of reputable sources. It's a hard balance to strike, but I think there are certain cases where when there is a sufficient risk of harm, that at least giving people the option to see what is like a societally recognized like trustworthy source, getting to see that easily is probably an important thing to at least experiment with, while not getting rid of the opportunity for anyone to contribute to the conversation, and maybe with enough evidence and substantiated conversation to drive public opinion in a productive direction.
Dope, thank you.
Hey Hadar, I had a question about so you being a product manager and working for Integrity, I wanted to understand a little bit more about the technicality of the work that you do. So what would you define your stakeholders? I know probably you're making product for the users, making it definitely safe. But where do you do the research and those sort of things that we talk here in the PM community, like doing research, doing that user research? So in terms of making your product more filled with integrity, do you guys actually reach out to actual customers, or do you talk to more like ethics leaders within the community?
Yeah, the answer is all of the above. We spend time working with third-party organizations that represent different interest groups, whether that's like different countries or different like communities within society as a whole. We do qualitative user research, talking to individual people and understanding how they perceive harm on the platform and what behaviors they think are permissible versus not. It's also possible to look at the data. Like we have ways of collecting information through surveys and other things. You can just analyze like the relationship between different types of content in different contexts and how that is perceived or felt by the user. These are just a couple of different examples, but especially as you get into like a larger and larger organization, there's more and more people with more and more time to explore more and more channels for that input gathering that I was talking about earlier. That's so important when you're deciding on what to do next.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's time for one more quick question. No worries if not.
I had a question regarding as we go about our products and creating it, so many companies have their APIs online and it's so easy to just see what they did and build on top of that. But is there a line that we should think about or crossing that you're building your work on somebody else's work, and then say if you potentially create like a business out of it, they're like the people who originally created it might not be getting the credit.
If you're building on top of other people's platforms, like giving them credit, you mean?
Yeah, so say like, I don't know if Messenger's API is out there, but if it is, then on top of that, if I decide to create like a messaging platform and integrate that into some other product or something, like, is there, maybe there's some legal thing involved or something, or is that ethical that you're building on somebody else's work?
Got it. Yeah, I mean, in most cases, you're probably paying them to use their product, unless they explicitly gave it to you for free. So that's like probably enough thanks for them, and they're probably happy with that. There are cases when there's like open source technologies that you can use, and I don't think they have to like put that in the face of your user and say like, I'm using this specific thing. I wouldn't really worry about like not thanking the creator of some service that you're using in your product. I would just focus on what is like the unique value proposition that you're providing to the user, and how can you leverage the existing plethora of options on the internet to make your product even more effective at reaching that person with a unique proposition with less cost on your side. In other words, these things make it easier to add unique value to the world, and we shouldn't focus too much on like reinventing the wheel or spending too much time on the things that already work well. Cool. I gotta jump, but hopefully this is helpful. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much, Hadar. Give clap reacts for Hadar. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Ooh, I see so many clap reacts. Love it, love it. Awesome. So thank you all so much for coming to our Project Jam Protothon kickoff. For people that are participating in Project Jam, please keep your eye on the Protothon Slack channel. And if you ever have any questions, ideally post in that channel what your question is, so that if anyone else has the same question as you, they can see the response and we're not like duplicating efforts. And yeah, later today we have our Product Buds Hangout, where you can come hang out with myself and other people on the Product Buds team. That's happening at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. So hit us up if you want to join, and we'd be happy to like chat with you, get to know you all, and de-stress a little bit too. Besides that, good luck on your projects, everyone, and enjoy the rest of Protothon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.